Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
I want to thank Chris for sending this little item from the Hill. I'm just going to share the headline with you. It's an ice cream shop that is now selling something called the Impeach Sundae. And it consists of peach ice cream smothered in nuts from the cabinet. With a side of orange-colored tomato ice cream topped with Cheetos. There it is. Oh, God. You know, it is, I'll tell you, I think I said, maybe even before Inauguration Day, this time will be a frightening time, but it'll be a extraordinary time for people who are clever, for artists. And I was listening to an old Bob Dylan song yesterday, and I was thinking, okay, we're going to get, a protest song, and we got to start seeing some of that. I'm sure there is out there, and I'm just out of it. I know there is, certainly in the hip-hop world. Oh, guys, how you doing? I thought to myself yesterday afternoon that you should not listen to me as somebody who is coping well with this. I'm not. And I got to get my act together, because I literally have been in a somewhat debilitating depression. And I have to recognize that. And I got to come out of it. Because, otherwise Trump wins. Remember when we used to say, otherwise the terrorists win? Otherwise Trump wins. So I'm driving in, and he's talking to the Sheriff's Association. And CNN cuts in to their programming to, of course, and the president is speaking now, bang, and on he comes. And he says, they get him in mid-sentence, and here's what he's saying. It was a standing ovation. They said it wasn't a standing ovation, but they weren't sitting down because they couldn't. I thought, oh my God. And then he went on to vaguely threaten the 3 federal judges who heard the Bann case yesterday, and to suggest that they were biased. And then he said, I've only been here for 3 weeks, and I have to tell you, it's much worse than I thought. The threat of terrorism, it is very real. I know things. He was saying he knows things that those judges don't know. I know things. It is frightening. And he kept on that for a while, and I thought, you despicable man. Every president has known things. And they don't come out and say, be afraid. Be very afraid. I can't tell you why, but oh my God. No, presidents in the past have generally, the Bush camp did the be afraid, be very afraid to get us into Iraq. But generally, presidents who are in receipt of all the intelligence and all the information, they don't talk about that. And when they talk to us in a reassuring tone. They don't use their office to incite fear. Boy, have we come a far piece from Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the White House, who was so right on the money when he said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." There's a president who spoke to us as he should with the right message. Fear will undo us, which is why Trump tries and Bannon try to instill it, because then in our terror of boogeymen unknown, we will give the dear leader every bit of authority he needs. Right? This president traffics in fear. It's despicable. He doesn't have a clue where lines are drawn. He was speaking yesterday. I'm going to get to Elizabeth Warren in a second. I could sort of hear one of you saying, "What about Elizabeth Warren?" Just hang on. There's always so much, okay? So yesterday he went down to MacDill Air Force Base, and this is the first time he appeared before troops as the commander-in-chief. And his remarks there were stunning as well. The military is never to be politicized. The military, there's a reason for the way our system is set up. The military, you join the military, you take an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. That's the oath. The Constitution, not the president who's in the White House. There is no political thing that's supposed to be going on with the commander-in-chief from whatever party and the military. And a lot of people in the military who saw his speech at MacDill were appalled, because he was talking to the troops like he would talk to the people at his rallies, as if he knew they were in his pocket, they voted for him. In fact, he said, here, I'll quote a few things. He said, "To the troops, we had a wonderful election, didn't we?" What? That's he's assuming that all these guys standing in front of him in fatigues voted for him. He sees a crowd, he thinks he's at a rally. And he went on and on with that. "I saw those numbers," said the president, "and you liked me, and I liked you. That's the way it worked." He was talking to him like they were coal miners or like they were out-of-work factory guys in the Midwest. He was saying, "Hey, we did it. Good election." But it's the military, you frigging idiot. You don't do it. Talking to the troops, he's promoting Gorsuch for the Supreme Court. He's accusing, of course, the lying media of, again, not reporting terrorist attacks. I'm sure a lot of those troops, especially the older people, were like, what? What the fuck? Here is an expert on civil military relations, Professor Emeritus, University, North Carolina, leading off in that speech with his election, and then attacking the press and talking about endorsements is a clear attempt to politicize the military and invite their partisanship. In rhetoric and in style, his words mimicked a campaign rally. Now, he's just trampling over all kinds of lines that have never been crossed. But again, as I remind you about Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a man who held the same office, I'm so glad he's not around to see who is there now, and how he exemplified a truly strong and good leader, and he's the antithesis of Trump. And here's another person from the military, celebrated in our history, General George C. Marshall. 5-star general, hero. He headed the State Department. He headed the Pentagon. And he said that he was so determined to avoid the appearance of being political that he famously never voted. He said, I don't even have a vote. I am handing in my vote. You know, I know some journalists who have done that. I don't vote. And I'm thinking, that's stupid. I mean, just because you don't give up your voice, your right for your own single vote. But I've heard journalists too. But that kind of understanding that George Marshall had is the same kind of understanding that has existed with most of the people who rise to positions of leadership and power. This president, I was thinking, you know, this presidency is just like a big civics lesson for this idiot. He's finding out. He just found out. You mean some judge? Some bow-tie judge on the left coast gets to stop something I decreed? Yeah, that's our system. He doesn't get it. He doesn't know about it. He's stunned. Mitch McConnell, bleh. I only see Yertle the Turtle when I look at him. I mean, he looks exactly like Yertle the Turtle, does he not? I rest my case. I usually think of him as a very savvy operator for his cause. Somebody who is ruthless in using every weapon that is possible for getting done what he needs to get done. And uncharacteristically, he screwed up last night. McConnell, I bet, is kicking himself today because by shutting up Elizabeth Warren, who was speaking to an almost empty Senate chamber, no one would have known what she said in her speech. But by shutting her up and telling her to sit down, he created the story of the morning. So everybody is now out there reading her speech, reading what Coretta Scott King wrote to the Congress when it was last looking at Jefferson Beauregard Sessions as a potential litigator. And that's often the case. I don't know why people don't get it. And for those of you who don't understand freedom of speech in general, anytime you try to shut something down, if you censor something, you only raise it up. You raise up its profile. You get people talking. Well, why are they afraid of what she was saying? What was she saying? And that's true of movies that people have attempted to shut down. It's true of books that people attempt to censor. It's always true. Idiots, they don't realize that the minute you start to try to shut up a speech you don't like, you give it a higher platform. Mitch McConnell knows that, so really shocking. So I have to tell you, I did something last night that one of you, was it in an email, I think, suggested that you should watch Fox, or watch Fox. You can have the remote right there. Was that a call?
That was Mary.
That was Mary. But you should do it because, know that, you can't fight a war if you don't know the enemy, right? It can't just be some figment in your imagination. You gotta watch them. See what all those people that we can't seem to reach are listening to. See what they believe. So it was Mary. So Mary, thank you, because I, last night, turned on Sean Hannity. Wow. You got to do it. Because if you do it, you understand more of, if that's where people are getting their news, then you get it. And I want to tell you something. I thought he was persuasive. He showed a clip of Maxine Waters, the great liberal congresswoman from California who's all over the tube these days, because she has raised the impeachment question. And so she's front and center and blah, 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 blah. He took Maxine Waters down like that by just showing his audience a clip of Maxine Waters. And it was probably, I don't know, from a speech that she was giving. Why am I hearing myself echoing? From a speech she was giving, I suppose, just that day, yesterday, who knows, in which he was talking about how horrible the president was, and how, and in her litany of all the horror that he has done, Waters says this: Trump is actually denying that Russia has invaded, and she doesn't know who, has invaded, and she turns off camera and like looking for somebody to tell her, what is the place that Russia invaded, that Trump, and nobody's helping her, and she says, Korea. Maxine Waters said, Trump is denying that Russia has invaded Korea. She said it. I put my head in my hands. So you can dismiss her. She's an idiot. She doesn't know Ukraine. She's just this blah, 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 blah. She doesn't have a clue what's going on. Oh, dear. We got Bree on the line. We lost him? All right. Okay. Hey, guys, with our new system, when you call, you got to hang on hold there for a while, okay? I can't take you just because you come. See, now that we have a system like a real talk show, you don't get to, you don't get to call right in and get right on. I mean, if I'm saying something now, you're not going to interrupt me, okay? That's just the way talk works everywhere. So, I got to tell you, I wouldn't have seen that clip anywhere else. Maxine Waters doesn't know Russia is invading Ukraine. Maxine, Ukraine, made her look like an idiot. Just saying. That was 20 minutes of Hannity last night. So, okay, watch. Chuck writes, after Elizabeth Warren was removed, was she removed from the Senate floor or just told to sit down and shut up? She was denied the... Do you know where that rule comes from, by the way? It's almost 200 years old. It's from early 1800s, and it was put into the Senate rules to keep anybody from mentioning abolition. So if a senator got up and started squawking about slavery, sit down and shut up. We are, rule, blah, blah, blah. That's the rule. Isn't that interesting? It's just a little ironic footnote. Okay, hang on. Just want to finish Chuck's statement. So she was removed for breaching Senate rules and impugning the character of Jeff Sessions. And this morning, right before you went on the air, they allowed Senator Tom Udall to read the exact same letter from Coretta Scott King. No objections were made. Did McConnell fold to the pressure, or were McConnell's actions last night more to do with silencing Elizabeth Warren than defending? Well, I think what you have going here is men are a lot quicker to shut a woman up. I mean, what you had is a woman reading another woman's letter. Shut up. Now, a guy reading the letter, no big deal. We've got Joe on the line. Hi, Joe. Are we okay?
Yeah, I will make sure we are, but hang on.
Okay, sorry.
All right, Joe.
Jack writes, yes, Lynn, a very uncharacteristic blunder from Yertle the Turtle, he said McConnell. She is really getting under his skin. Go, Senator Warren, go! She's been raised to a very high platform now. Let's watch this grow, and grow it will. Well, he did elevate her with this. Yeah, without a doubt. So I got to tell you, the arguments before the court yesterday, I find out on Twitter that there's a link where I can listen to the argument, which I did.
Okay, no problem.
So I heard it in real time. I heard the judges questioning the attorneys from the Justice Department and from, we got who? Joe.
It's not my problem.
Hey, Joe. Hello?
Hey, yesterday when I was doing my war rant, I couldn't hear you. That's why I didn't listen to what you said. You were breaking up. So that's the reason I didn't let you respond. I should have just hung up because I really couldn't hear you that well. It was all muffled.
Really? And it's not today?
It was my cordless phone, I think.
Oh, okay. I got one email saying that I was very rude to you, and I didn't let you finish your thought. And
No, I didn't think so. But what I was going to say, I don't understand why another caller would call your talk show and criticize a caller. That's his opinion. And the guy that called after and said, if I had just listened to you, I would have known what you were going to say. Well, I've heard that all before. I hear the liberal talk. I know the liberal talk. I've been watching it for years on TV. So I pretty much knew what you were going to say, but I couldn't hear you.
Okay.
And like I said, it's a disagreement between you and I. That's fine.
That's true.
But I don't, and then what bugged me is when he said, well, that's why Trump was voted in, because of people like me. Well, I voted for Jimmy Carter twice.
No, I said to
Democrat
right.
all my life.
Right. You didn't vote for Trump, did you? No. You did?
No,
I didn't think you did.
I can't stand. I wouldn't vote. I hate Republicans. I mean, I literally hate them.
Okay. So, yeah. You know, though, once...
I don't think it's right to be criticizing other callers, because it's just opinion. If I ever say anything about a caller, it's always positive. But I don't say, well, hey, goddamn it, you don't know what the hell he's talking about. It's their opinion.
Well, you know what's funny
I don't agree with that.
You know what's funny, Joe, is the person who wrote me and said I was rude then went on to say you give and mentioned other callers by name and said she didn't like them. So, I mean, here's the thing. If you dare to call, then you become fair game. Well, you do. You become fair game in this game we're all playing here. So, and you come on.
That's why I stay off Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I think most callers and people who listen to this show know your voice. Now we know your name, if in fact that's your real name.
That's my name.
And you feel like an old friend. I mean, so yeah, I don't. Whatever. I'm sorry. I was in a mood yesterday that I was going to jump down somebody's throat. I would kick a puppy yesterday. Actually, I mean, I actually went to see a puppy yesterday, and I wouldn't have kicked him. I was just in a really.
But I have
foul
one
mood.
question.
Okay.
Did you see the article about 18 to 29-year-olds? 51% do no longer like the capitalist system.
How
now,
many?
How in the hell did Trump get voted in then?
Well, because
I don't get that.
Then they didn't vote.
Are these polls wrong?
I don't know. I think young people in general are not great lovers of. They're much more open to a socialistic perspective.
See,
That's my sense.
I told you that before. I'm pretty much socialist.
Yeah.
I don't like some things about it.
Right.
But I like Canada better than
I do
United
too.
States.
I do too.
I like Finland better than United States.
Oh man, get us to a Scandinavian country. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Right.
Yeah, I like that type of system better. I'm not big on the capitalist system at all.
Yeah.
Because of the greed.
Well, because
greed takes over it, forget it.
Capitalism can work when it's regulated, but left to its own devices, it turns into the hell we've got going now. And this administration is going to pull all those regulations, and we're about to see the capitalists scarf up every little thing they can that they already haven't. You'll see the wealth gap grow. The little people that put Trump in are going to get screwed. You're going to get screwed. I'm going to get screwed. And the capitalists will end up doing themselves in. It's like any time something overreaches, eventually people figure it out and rise up and say no.
We can only hope this is a bad cycle and then it'll come through.
Well, let's hope. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bree has now written. He said that his calling card ran out of funds. Oh, sorry, Bree. And he said, the argument you make, I guess about what? About calling attention by trying to censor? The argument you make was one made by John Denver when he testified in front of Congress in the days of the PMRC. What's the PMRC? PMRC. His argument was persuasive. he stated he was, quote, strongly opposed to censorship of any kind in our society or anywhere else in the world, and that in his experience, censors often misinterpret music. Oh, boy, do they. As was the case with his song, Rocky Mountain High. In addition, I might have misinterpreted that too. In addition, Denver expressed his belief that censorship is counterproductive. And here's a quote. That which is denied becomes that which is most desired. Right. And that which is hidden becomes that which is most interesting. Consequently, a great deal of time and energy is spent trying to get at what is being kept from you. So when Denver came up to give his speech, many on the PMRC board expected him to side with them, thinking he would be offended by the lyrics as well. Oh, so this was this effort to censor music, but I still am blanking on what does PMRC stand for, if anybody wants to. But it was, what was it, the effort by Gore's wife, blanking on her name, and others to... Parents Music Resource Center. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Yes. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's just no doubt about it. The minute you tell me I can't do something or I can't see something, it's human nature. I mean, in somebody like me who doesn't like authority, who says? That's my immediate response. Who says? Watch this. So if somebody puts out a sign that says, don't walk on the grass, I have an inclination to stomp all over it. I mean, that's just it's because I'm an anti-authoritarian. But I think a lot of us. It's why illicit sex is so good. I mean, come on. Because you ain't supposed to be doing whatever that is you are doing. And if you're, I mean, come on. Basic. But I got to tell you, listening to those attorneys argue before those judges was interesting. I mean, I'm no lawyer, so they're arguing case law and precedent. And it ain't necessarily, it's... Boy, I feel for guys who have to get up there and just take questions from judges peppering you left, right, and center. But the person who was representing Bush, the government, God, wishful thinking, Trump and his administration really seemed flat-footed. And I think the exchange that's getting all the attention was one of the judges saying to him, are you saying that we, the judiciary, have no right, that this is what the president did is unreviewable by our branch of government? And the guy stopped, paused. You can imagine what was going on in his head. Oh, shit, I know, maybe it's gambling. And he said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's no way to win a case before a bunch of judges is saying you got no right to second guess the President of the United States. Interesting. And I wish that opportunity was available. So the court itself live streamed their hearing. That was coming from the court. And, gee, it'd be great if the Supreme Court would do that. You can really see how this operates. That was really, really interesting. So I did two things yesterday that I don't normally get to do. I listened to Fox News and learned something, and I listened to the Federal Appeals Court. And the fact that they did it on the phone, that was interesting. Because one of the people on that appeals court is in Hawaii. the one that was put there by Bush. And one of them is in, I think, Phoenix, and the other's in California or something. So it's not like they all are even in the same city. So everybody was on a conference call, and you got to join by listening. I mean, you didn't get to talk. I thought it was fascinating. I want to get to the travel ban a little bit. So the head of Homeland Security, General Kelly, popped up on Capitol Hill yesterday and took the blame. Did you see that? He took the blame for the messed up rollout. And what's amazing about that is our understanding, right, was that he was on an airplane trying desperately to get his point of view heard on the final draft of the executive order when he hears that it's out. It's already a done deal. It happened without him. So this guy, who it was not him, it was President Bannon who put this thing out the way it was put out. And there was the head of Homeland Security, General Kelly, saying this to the House Committee on Homeland Security yesterday. I should have delayed it just a bit so that I could talk to members of Congress, particularly to the leadership of committees like this, to prepare them for what was coming. That's what he said. Unbelievable. He should have. Bannon should have told him. How was he to tell people in Congress when he himself was out of the loop? And then Kelly went on to say this: Americans must feel safe to walk down the street, go to the mall, or to a nightclub. Anywhere, anytime. Fear must not become the status quo. Whoa, wait a minute. Fear, as we know, is what his administration, the Trump that he serves, wants. And Americans must feel safe to walk down the street? What does that have to do with letting refugees in? Americans have to feel safe going to the mall? What does that have to do with letting refugees in? Or going to a nightclub? What does that have to do with letting refugees, green card holders, people who have been vetted extremely for over 2 years? What the hell does that have to do? And they've been very successful because, as you know, they've scared the bejeebers out of a whole ton of Americans. And the ones they haven't scared about, having their throats slit in their sleep by a Muslim marauder, they've scared the rest, like me, because of their desire for totalitarian power and also for turning Americans against other Americans. What have we come to when the head of Homeland Security, sitting in front of a House committee, is asked if he agreed with a tweet that the president sent? This is how, again, never heard before. Never heard before. Do you agree with the tweet the president said that this injunction could allow a lot of dangerous people into the country? Okay. So, Trump's list of all the terrorist attacks that the media has given short shrift to, which has just been universally mocked. The New York Times online yesterday put out this extraordinary list with every date and every terrorist attack they had covered. And the interesting thing is there were a hell of a lot more of them on the New York Times list than there was on the president's list. The reason being, the only attacks on the president's list are when a Muslim attacked a white person. Pretty much. The perpetrator had to be a Muslim. Otherwise, I guess it doesn't qualify as a terrorist attack to these people. And we know that's true. And they generally have to be killing Caucasians. Because the most terrorist attacks with the most carnage have occurred in Africa. Africa. The White House did not put one of those attacks on its list, even though they are carried out by, yes, Muslims, but they were just killing black people, so it's amazing. So terrorism to this White House is only white people being killed by Muslims. That's why he's never said boo about the mosque in Quebec, which is the most recent. Because that was a Muslim killing other Muslims. So, no, that was a white guy, excuse me. Sorry. That was a white guy killing Muslims. So that's not terrorism. It has to be the other way around. Dylan Roof slaughtering 9 Americans in their church. That didn't make the list either because that was a white guy killing black people. None of the attacks on that list deviate from what I'm telling you. And some of the things on that list are absolutely bogus. So that one of the items on the list is the killing of 2 white young Brits, I believe, in Australia at a hostel by a Muslim. And both, that happened recently, and the parents of the dead girl and the dead young man have written a letter to the president, furious that he used their daughter's death to further his effort to terrify people. She said it was not a terrorist attack. The Australians agreed it was not a terrorist attack. The guy who committed the attack was crazy. And she wrote in the letter to Trump, the grieving mother wrote, "My daughter's death will not be used to further this insane persecution of innocent people." The parents of the second victim said, "I am sure that Trump and his advisors know full well, or could very easily verify, that Tom and Mia died not as the result of an act of terror, but rather through the actions of a disturbed individual. But of course, that doesn't suit his agenda." The fact that anyone would want to make something political out of Tom's dying is just beyond me. We're still struggling to come to terms with it, and probably never will. But this has just brought the whole experience crashing about us. It's something. Oh, and Trump, remember him telling the rallies how he was going to take care of ISIS. He had a plan. It was aggressive. He was going to do torture and worse. He was going to bomb them. He was going to kill everybody. He was going to call out the troops. Well, the first time he did, it was a total debacle. How much of a debacle, we don't know, because they're covering it up. Interesting, no House committees are screaming for a investigation, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, about what went wrong, resulting in the death of not only children, innocent children, but also of this fine SEAL. We're not going to look into that because the White House assured us that it was a successful campaign. Never mind that the guy they went in to get is openly taunting the president. You know how he approved of that, how he signed off on it. He signed off at it at a dinner. Small dinner for 4 nights before the disaster, with his top national security aides, which I think means Bannon and Flynn, and there was no one present from the military, unless you want to count Flynn, who's not really in the military anymore. And this was just over a dinner. When George W. Bush, when Barack Obama signed off on a mission this dangerous, this high risk, they did it after rigorous review. They did it after meeting in the Situation Room. And now we see that Yemen has said, hey, that was such a friggin' disaster. You are never allowed in here again. You cannot do that again. So this is, so far, we see Trump taking on ISIS. And I'd say ISIS 1, Trump 0 would be the score. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, his good friend Putin, did you see, has probably killed another person who said things about him that he didn't like. This was his second attempt to kill this guy. There was an attempt to poison him, I think, 2 years ago, and he managed to fight back. They didn't give him a big enough dose or something. Well, they poisoned him again. He's 35 years old. He's now in a medically induced coma and is not expected to make it out. He has been critical of Trump. So he was also a friend of the other Putin dissident who was gunned down on the street near the Kremlin, if you recall that. So this is how, this is how Putin, a man who Trump says he has respect for, this is how he handles his critics. And Don't think Trump ain't itching to do the same. Milton says, you just suggested that the Supreme Court should live stream audio of oral arguments. While there is as yet no live stream, audio oral arguments are posted to the Supreme Court website the following morning. I know that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Which is okay, but not great. But that's worth checking out if you ever want to actually hear the way that goes. Now, remember, you will not hear the voice of Justice Thomas, but you should hear the others. And that's at supremecourt.gov/oral arguments. I would recommend that. Not a dull moment, huh? Yeah, General Kelly fell on his sword. Right, that's what he did. I hope he didn't. He wasn't sworn in before he testified, because otherwise he would have perjured himself. And we have a call. Christina. Okay. Hi, Christina.
How are you?
Hi.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, I just want to share with you a few thoughts, if it's all right. And as valuable as I think it is to know thy enemy, as you began the program today, I really think it's wiser to know and understand at a deeper level why you believe in what you do and that foundation of those beliefs that you have. So hearing last night of Mitch McConnell and 49 senators voting to silence Elizabeth Warren, reading a letter by Coretta Scott King, and then having the chance to read the letter and the comments she prepared to present to the committee that was reviewing his nomination to the federal bench, just gave me that deeper understanding of why I believe what I believe. And for the last 6 months now, I've felt energized because I've been active. I've worked to get votes out here in the North Hills for the Clinton campaign. I've been attending the rallies now, Tuesdays with Toomey. I've been sending letters. I've been making phone calls. I've been making connections. And this is uncomfortable for me. But I'm doing it, and I'm doing it because I understand my viewpoints on choice rights and the life commitment of raising a child is. I understand and have studied and have read about and experienced civil rights in the South and unique experience I got to have. I understand this feeling I have, and it's not just a feeling, but this commitment I have to fight against the Muslim ban that's been imposed because of my experience of having recently lived in the Gulf states in the Middle East and being welcomed and cherished and having incredibly deep friendships now with Arabs and Muslims from Palestine, Egypt, Lebanon, Syria. One of the most amazing women I've ever met is from Syria. And then also in education. My vote or my encouragement to have Toomey not vote for DeVos comes from thought out and experience with homeschooling, with private education, and with public education. And it's going deeper and looking at documents and reading and really reflecting on where your beliefs come from that I think is even more empowering for people right now.
I think it's very well said. Very well said. And I'm so glad that you've become so active because because you bring a lot.
You have to in these times.
Yeah, you do.
You have to in these times. and I adopted something the day of the election, and I've been working toward that, is something every day. Some one thing at least every day.
Good for you.
And the evening, yesterday after Tuesday, like the evening news, it's like, oh, God, I got to go do 4 more letters now. Yesterday,
yeah.
I was busy. There was a lot that had already been done towards that goal. I wrote to Shapiro, our Attorney General. Thank you for working towards this. And to my state senator, Vukolovich, do not vote against this abortion bill coming up in the state legislature.
Yeah.
I've already done that, and now I had to do more last night.
Good for you. Well, you're going to get a good citizenship star from me today.
No, again, and it's always, you also inspire me. You're 30 years of doing this. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much. One. Boy, you're, a wise woman. Thank you, Christina. Thank you. Yeah, she does know of what she speaks. Her life informs what she's saying. Being in the Middle East. Homeschooling her children. Then dealing with the public schools as well. She's been there, done that, as a smart lady. I want to just drop a tidbit in here while I can that is just an outrage. Apparently, the Department of Defense is seeking some vacant space in Trump Tower in New York. So we, the taxpayers, are about to rent space in Trump Tower in New York. Now, this is for personnel and equipment beyond Secret Service who are there to protect the friggin' president when he's in Trump Tower. The thing is, you can't be enriched by holding the office. Any president in that position would say, yeah, I can find you space on the 22nd floor and it's yours. That's what you do. That's what an ethical president would do. It's the only thing you could conceivably do. You give it to the government for free. He wouldn't get that in a million years. So, I do have an obituary of the day, and this goes out to all the old folks. God bless him, he was 102. Professor Irwin Corey. That name ringing any bells? You get a picture? I think sometimes in my head he sort of turns into Sid Caesar. But because they had the same kind of, they're two Jewish guys of the same kind of, with the same kind of smarts. And Irwin Corey, he was famous. He would go on the late night talk shows as this professor, and you couldn't understand a word the guy said, but he was smart as hell. He was also a lefty. And in fact, up until last year, so he was 101, he would essentially look like he was panhandling in New York. He would stand in the traffic on East 35th Street near the exit of the Queens Midtown Tunnel, so there's tons of cars coming constantly, and he would ask for change from drivers. And anything he got, he did this every day, anything he got, he sent to a charity that buys medical supplies for children in Cuba. Professor Irwin Corey. I wish you'd have to hear his shtick. I can't do it justice. But very recently, he did a sort of a Coreyism. As his health was declining, he was still, though, smart and clever and spirited. And here's how he put it. I feel more like I do now than when I first got here. God bless him. Also, a very funny event. They were giving the awards for the National Book Award. The year's 1974. And it was being done from Alice Tully Hall in Manhattan. And that year, the fiction prize was shared by Isaac Bashevis Singer and Thomas Pynchon. Now, Thomas Pynchon is, known as a recluse. So when Isaac Bashevis Singer strides on stage to get the award, there is another. Oh my God, people are in the audience are thinking, oh my God, that's Thomas Pynchon. Nobody's even laid eyes on him. It wasn't. It was Corey, who with Pynchon's okay was accepting for him. Pynchon thought the stunt was a riot, and people in the audience never even understood. So he passed himself off as Thomas Pynchon. Amazing. 102 years old, sharp as a tack, up until the end. He was born in Brooklyn in 1914 and was immediately put in an orphanage, the Hebrew Orphan Asylum, along with his siblings. And they released him to his own devices when he was 13 years old. He drifted around. He worked for the Civilian Conservation Corps. He became a boxing champion. And then he knocked somebody cold and he hung up his glass. I can't do this anymore. I didn't mean to do that. He made buttons. And he was a member, because of that, of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. God bless him. Irwin Corey. The critic, by the way, this guy was smart as hell. The critics, like Kenneth Tynan, he said of Corey, he's Chaplin's clown with a college education. Just smart as hell and wonderfully funny. Look him up. Look up one of the shticks. And God bless him. Irwin Corey dead at 102. And that's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow. Do what Christina does. One thing a day. One thing a day. Not a big deal. One letter, one call. One thing a day. Thank you. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.